Thank you, thank you. How are we all doing today? Good? I'll take that as a yes. So, today we're here to learn about leadership. I hate to break it to you, but guess what? Leadership sometimes sucks. Not what you're expecting? As I look out at all your expectant faces, I know that you're waiting for me to give you the motivational guidebook on the perfect formula for leadership. The truth is, there isn't one. You'll find a lot of rich material and perhaps a lot of other stuff that you can read about the 8 different styles of leadership and how, if you're a great communicator, you and your team might be able to soar like the superhuman that you are. Blah, blah, blah. You get the picture, right? Forget what you know. It's BS. Each leadership peak is having their own unfolding journey. First of all, you've got to be really good at what you're doing. And then you've got to activate your charisma, what everybody these days calls Riz. Find your own style, own it, and then ultimately get on with it, right? Sounds simple. That's what I thought so too. Each leadership peak enables you to reach new challenges. Evolving creates momentum, but it's creativity that nourishes us, that enables us to reach new heights. I would consider myself a self-motivated person, a type of go-getter who relies on no one. When I first started out, I thought my success was mine alone. And I also thought I was the only one doing all the work. Maybe some of you guys could relate to that my bosses had it easy ordering about their minions. In 2012, I decided to conquer my own life. With my husband, we started a family and set up our own business. Now, I can't tell you which was the harder challenge, coping with a newborn or a newly born business and working with my husband. I mean, picture that. Let's just say my husband shed a lot of tears along the way. For me, there were sleepless nights and at times feeling like I was failing on all fronts. In the earlier days, getting our business off the ground was a struggle. So was my other new role, motherhood. So I decided to reach out to a friend about my human newborn. "Oh yeah, kids, they're horrible," she said to me. I looked at her in pure amazement. "What are you talking about? That's not what you told me when I was first pregnant." Her reply has always stuck with me. "Oh yeah, that's the encouraging speech to keep you motivated and optimistic before reality kicks in." At the same time, our creative and branding agency, The Orangeblowfish, was born. I am the business brains and strategist. My husband gets to do all the fun stuff, as always. He is the creative who turns spaces into brand statements using visual arts and multimedia storytelling. When you're setting out, the terrain can lead you into dark caverns, and your team may not necessarily appreciate how much you do to keep the lights on. When the going gets tough, you've got to learn to pivot. Even when everyone else feels like quitting, you've got to remain motivated, optimistic, because failure is not an option. Obstacles for sure. It's these less glamorous times that you've really got to lean into your reserves. And yes, sometimes it's about making tough decisions and chewing on them over and over again, trying to figure out the right solution, when really deep down inside, you know that maybe there just isn't one. To go on and flourish, you need to learn what you're doing, and you need to learn it well to lead the way. So guess what? Confidence comes from competence. To walk the talk, you've really got to know what you're doing, and you've got to be great at it for starters. While you might be able to fake it till you make it to some extent, you'd better learn to pull it off for real. I mean, I guess we all know one or two of those know-it-all bosses. Maybe you have one or two of those in your life who don't really know what they're doing and don't give any real leadership. But what they're doing is creating a house of cards that's ready to topple. They keep on going, sifting through the wreckage, trying to rebuild on shaky foundations. It happens more than you can imagine. For me, I'd like to say that I was a born leader. I was directing on the playgrounds by the age of 3. Why can't you tell? But no, seriously. I think that I was one of those kids who excelled. I was always a perfectionist, but I never claimed to be the smartest person in the room. No, no, no. For me, I was the most inquisitive. I always asked the most questions. Why? You must be thinking, why? Because confidence comes from competence. To be competent, you've got to be curious. You got to keep on learning, and also you've got to work real hard. You know what my secret weapon is? Grit. I've never been afraid of hard work or the long hours, and I've always raised my hand to put myself on projects to learn from those who I thought knew better than me. So, in order to lead the way and have others follow, you've got to be really good at your craft. To teach, you need to learn, but at the same time, you might have to unlearn. So let me tell you about a story of how I learned the hard way. In 2017, I hired an executive coach after opening myself up to 360-degree feedback. Honestly, no one put me up for it. I thought I was going to get raving reviews. So you can imagine how I felt when the glowing references did not come in. I felt it all. Anger, shame, confusion. I asked myself, how could this be? I want to say that I was immediately gracious, but I wasn't. And then I did what I thought was once impossible. I made a choice to be different. I listened. More importantly, I dared to be myself. My perception of my self-worth was prohibiting me from appreciating the worth of others. I'd come to learn to understand as a leader that I need to figure out how to embrace my creativity, how to activate my riz, and that involves channeling my EQ. EQ in the workplace, known as emotional quotient, or what you might know as emotional intelligence, EI, is fundamentally about teaching people with humanity, compassion, and respect. Delegation does not induce creativity. However, celebrating responsibility, autonomy, and individuality in others does. For me, this process was about letting go of control. And for me, that came in the perfect form of a bouncing baby boy, Silver Jr. 2.5 years later, I had a refresher course with the arrival of my daughter, Little Miss T. She is destined to march to the beat of her own drum, whether I'm at home working on a Teams call or not. Some might argue that parental exhaustion made me a little bit less controlling, which I don't really deny, but I would like to think that my mini-me's were my gurus. I started to think about, during this entire process, do I always have to be out the front leading? Strong leadership is also about directing and strategizing and influencing from behind the scenes. So as I look at you guys today, you need to ask yourself, you might be a project leader because you're capable and competent, but are you a motivational driving force? Do you inspire a positive momentum that goes beyond yourself? Leadership needs to be fluid, like creativity flowing through water. And I think it's these moments that enable us to not only focus on the math and the business languages, which is what happens in Asia. In the workplace, creativity, where is it? Right at the bottom, along with the arts and communication. It is a skill that is not highly understood, encouraged, or respected. So, you need to ask yourself, what type of leader do you want to be? How do you want to show up? Do you influence people, situations, teams by embracing your creativity, activating your charisma, and also surrounding yourself with the best people in order to find your own leadership style and owning it? So this shouldn't come as a surprise to you, but there's only one of you. Being a cookie-cutter leader or stitching together a Frankenstein of mentors will only get you so far. Your uniqueness is your greatest asset. So find your own creative style and dare to break the rules. To do this, you need to let your positivity of influences guide you. For me, my father was the first to invest in me. I was the youngest of 4, and I grew up with traditional Chinese values. While he is no longer here with us today, his imprint, his impact is always with me. He was the first one to ever take an interest in my life. He encouraged me to blossom. He opened my mind wide enough so I could be myself. He relentlessly encouraged me to tap into my superpowers, to find my own personal style. You can say that we're programmed today, like how AI is, to fit into a square box, whether it's corporate culture or societal norms. However, if you are a square peg trying to fit into a round slot, and you just don't fit, personally or professionally, be yourself. Even if that means creating new boxes just with a U-shaped you in it, and I mean you. I have created many new boxes for myself, and I've loved every moment of it. You need to ask yourself, how are you going to get into the groove? As a leader, do I want to keep the peace, slip into a role, and oil a machine that works but doesn't make it any better? Do I want to throw out the manual and do it my way? Do I want to be dynamic, edgy, and bold? Just imagine if you just let go. It's a wild idea. Are you following a groove that you've created over time, or are you creating fresh tracks? I remember my ex-bosses telling me that I did not understand the meaning of no. I did. I just chose to follow a path that I thought was possible, and I was brave enough to try. Creativity in its purest form is exhilarating. Don't be afraid to be yourself, because by doing that, you can play with ideas and put them into action in ways that you've never felt or thought about before. So once you have found your leadership style and you're confident, then you just got to get on with it. I hate to break it to you, but some of the best leaders are not the most academic. You can't just lead with a theory or an idea, even when you don't know where you're going. Think why, think what, think how, then stop thinking and get shit done. Do not have a meeting about a meeting that's analyzing a meeting. I mean, come on, guys. Procrastination is analysis to the point of paralysis. I couldn't wait for my life to start. I knew the world was going to be my oyster, and I just wanted to jump in. On the last day of my very last university exam, I booked a one-way ticket from Sydney to Singapore. It may have looked like I had a plan, but I didn't. But you know what? I was living it. I was doing it, and I was taking leadership of my path. Next came Hong Kong, Shanghai, with a few stops in North America and Europe along the way. It hasn't been a straight road, but you know what? The scenery and experience have been spectacular. So, leadership doesn't have to suck all the time. And I can say that with a smile on my face because I know my confidence comes from my competence. I know that I am embracing my creativity by surrounding myself with the best people, activating my Riz, and channeling my EQ. At the same time, I'm a driving force when I want to be, and I'm also directing and strategizing from behind the scenes. More importantly, I get shit done, and I know my why. There's this myth to say that when you're leading the way, you're above the grind. The truth is, I've never worked harder in my life. But you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. So, to be a true impactful leader, sometimes you've just got to roll up your sleeves and jump all in. Take control of your path, so the leadership journey for you doesn't have to suck. I am Natalie Lowe, and as I continue on my leadership journey, I wish you all the best in yours. Thank you.